Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the show. The Atheist Experience is live November 2nd.
But they're organizing a marathon of prayer, fasting, and Bible reading.
Okay.
But they say the outcome is up to God. You know,
And if the outcome is up
relatively
to
clean.
God, then why bother voting anyway? Because God's
Yes.
omniscient, and He already knows He sees 2 days in the future already,
Yeah,
and knows
exactly.
who's won.
Yeah.
So it's all
So-
entirely pointless.
So it's a
and-
done deal.
Yeah.
So all y'all that are praying for a miracle, y'all can stay home. The rest of you
Yeah.
go out and vote.
Well, again, isn't praying for anything pointless? Because if God is omniscient and knows the future with complete clarity, then praying for anything is pointless.
Well,
Because He's already made His mind up of what He's going to do at all times.
Well, not only that, but I think it's a little bit arrogant because it assumes that, this person that's saying the prayer has some special end with God that, that God's going to grant that prayer over all of the others out there. Like the kids praying that they're going to get fed today or, have clean water or,
Right.
not die from malaria. So,
Yeah, this is the same God who, whenever you bring up the problem of evil, they say, oh, well, God can't interfere with free will. God can't interfere in your lives because that would negate free will, and free will is this incredibly precious, important thing.
Yes.
So the reason God doesn't stop, like, violent rapists from attacking 10-year-olds is because, that He can't interfere with free will. Free will's too important. But when I want something really bad and I want to pray for it,
yeah.
then I want Him to interfere, So it's having that cake and eating it too is how they really want it, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
So.
and this is kind of an interesting thing for me because I was having a conversation with my mother this past week. My mother came to visit me. My mother recently found out that the breast cancer that she thought she beat 6 years ago is back, and it's in her bones, and so she actually is stage 4 now, which is, of course, not curable, but it's very treatable. And for those who don't know, stage 4 breast cancer, it could end up, you could survive 2 years, you could survive 5 years, you could survive 20 years. You could die of something else entirely. So, the important thing is they caught it extremely early.
So, okay, that is good.
And she is getting excellent care.
That's excellent. It says, Matt was saying a few weeks ago when he, found out that he was sick. He said, we are living in the best time in human history to be sick.
Yes.
Because advancements in science and medical research have even horrible diseases that would, knock you flat dead.
Yes.
Even a few years ago are more and more, as the years go by, treatable. You might not be able to cure things, but you can at least manage certain diseases in such a way to where, they only reach a certain point, and of course, while you have to live with it, at least you can still live.
Right.
And you can potentially go on and have a very happy, productive life for a decade or more. Even with a cancer that in 1980 or 1970 would have been a very quick death sentence.
Yes.
So.
And so she runs into people from time to time who discover that she has stage 4 breast cancer, and of course one of the common responses is, oh, I'll pray for you. And she's gotten to where she's very offended by this, particularly people that she doesn't know at all, that say, they're going to intercede with God on her behalf, as if they have some special, ability to get God to grant their wishes when it wouldn't, when...
Or as if, God just wasn't aware. So,
yeah, like he just didn't know. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for giving me the heads up there.
Yeah.
Being omniscient, I didn't know that.
I'll bump that up on my priority list.
Sure,
It's
right.
like, okay.
That's the curious thing about the praying thing. I actually overheard something very similar one morning. I was having breakfast at Kirby Lane, and over in the next table was a guy. There are 2 men having breakfast, and one of them was just offering to pray for his pal, just for very, and he was talking about it like they were like these 2 white-collared dudes, and the one guy was offering to put in a good word for the boss.
Yeah.
And this was all very straight face. It's like, so you got anybody else you want me to pray for? Because I'm, as if this was like, hey, I can, it's sort of like a rodeo. It's like, hey, I can get you backstage if you want, that kind of thing. Like he's got some pull, right?
Yeah.
And they really believe this. And I think it's interesting psychologically to think about what is going on there. It's prayer is, I think, often accurately mocked as this way to just convince yourself that you're doing something about something without actually having to do something. Yeah. And with no effort, you can just put it all in the hands of the Lord. And Christianity, sort of, the churches and the sermons and the places they go to receive the work, this encourages this attitude of just put your problems in God's hands and it'll all be okay.
And I think that a lot of that attitude has to do with the discomfort a believer feels when they're confronted with a situation where they're truly powerless. In the case of, someone has cancer, and there's nothing that individual can do to actually help. And so in order to deal with discomfort, they throw out this, well, I'll pray for you. So I think that it's, in some cases, at least as much about alleviating their own discomfort as it is about, expressing some sort of goodwill. Because frankly, if you say this to someone you don't even know, how meaningful could it possibly be?
Right. Well, it's not necessarily
problem.
like, I could just meet someone for the very first time and they could tell me they have cancer and I could give them a genuine expression of sympathy, like, I'm really sorry to hear that, I hope the best for you.
Sure.
And I mean that to a certain degree. Now, I'll pray for you may be their way of kind of saying that.
Yeah. And
because it gives them that sense of dealing with the discomfort. But it's just a way that they know to express sympathy.
Yes.
And so... and some people say, well, what's wrong with that? There's nothing really malevolent about that. Well, I think, in the general sense of, is it better to hold rational, all things being equal, is it better to hold rational beliefs or irrational beliefs?
Yeah.
And is it better to, if you really want to support and help somebody, to give them the kind of real help and real support that will do them good, instead of simply giving them platitudes of I'm sorry, I'll talk to my divine friend about your situation and it'll make me feel better.
And the acid test is, and I don't doubt that there are some people that like you're saying, it's truly their expression of goodwill. My thing is, I would rather someone just say, hey, I'm sorry, that really sucks, because it does. But I think that the acid test here is, if you would not be offended if someone said, oh, well, I'll sacrifice a goat for you. then saying, hey, I'll pray for you would be appropriate in the same situation. If that either is not meaningful to you or is in some sense offensive to you that someone would sacrifice a goat, then, perhaps, if you feel the need to pray, then do so. But, probably not necessary to walk up to people you barely know and claim that you're going to intercede with the deity on their behalf.
That is, a function that religion serves, I think, for the believer, is that it helps you manage insecurities about life, about things that go on that happen that you don't expect, and it's really upsetting. Now, is it an effective way to manage those insecurities? Maybe, just from a standpoint of your own basic psychology, probably, but in terms of actually doing the tangible, real things, fine. It's like the old, the Islamic saying says, trust in Allah but tie up your camel. Ultimately, if you want something done, you got to do it. And if you think that praying, if the act of prayer makes you feel better, and that's really all it is. And just understand that that's all it is. It's not something that's going to accomplish anything.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry your mother has this condition. I'll pray for her, but here's the number of a really great oncologist. There you go. Now you're doing something really meaningful. And
Well, and the irony of it is that the same people that will say, "Oh, I'll pray for you," they won't recommend a really good oncologist, even if they know one, because some of these folks feel that in some way that's presumptuous. To assume that she wouldn't know a really good oncologist already. So.
Well, that might be, but it's still, it's a cut above in terms of actual effectiveness of doing things.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, I'd rather filter, lists of oncologists than, say, oh, you're on my prayer list.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, thanks.
And here are the goat entrails I sacrificed for you.
Yes.
Take good care of these.
A guiding star.